Your love. Me too. It's true. I just can't resist. Every time these live streams start, you're live. I am. But live.
Spelt the same way and said differently as live. Mom, why does live spelled the same as live?
Oh, it's done that way to trick you, honey.
Oh.
It said like no mom anywhere. Hence, like the collective and speaking for myself frustration with everything.
Mom, why? ... Cause.
Don't know, like, but cause creates the effect. Wow. What's the cause? Just cause?
Yeah.
But it's not just. This is unjust. I don't know, honey. Listen, the world's not going to give you a lot of money, so you won't have to really deal with these problems because you'll be disempowered. So if you keep asking them, you'll never be happy. And you don't worry about that because that's everybody. Like, fuck that. Hi. It's my SNL intro. I've said that like I've ever watched it with any kind of regularity. Haven't. My name's Elliot. It's a pleasure to meet you again. Boom. And it's another casual sit down. Let me grab my second cup of coffee. Speaking of effects, like good things are happening due to the good things that we've been and refuse to not be. So it's the good things we're still being, yo. And one of those good things in my sphere of universe I'm noticing is that people aren't so repulsed by me anymore. It's just the best word to use. In that I'm attracting conversation. I'm attracting pleasance with presence. And I would say that I'm also repulsing that which does not resonate. But on account of my doing that so well, so long, so how? They're pretty far by now. And it's given other energies like a welcome to, I guess, feel safe to tread towards themselves. And I'm there. I'm like, hey, I'm you. And it's not like, they walk up to me and they're like, you're an Ascension guru, aren't you? I've got some questions about that. Ascension guru. This is a goofy thing. Guru is one of those words like love. It's weird. It's like you can describe a thing, but it isn't a thing, except everything. So everything is your guru. You are your own guru. Sure, that's like everything enough for me. Uh, this person is like a guru to me. Okay, even that jives. But I think that it is culturally, socially, politically, fictitiously uh, immobilizing when it becomes a part of, I don't know, someone's name or like self identification. My name is Elliot Guru. Guru, Eli Guru. Elliot Tulu. Goliot. Oh, goodness. Moving on. Undoubtedly, if you're watching this video, and in any of my videos, if you're like the bottom 100 subscribers, increasingly so, closer to one, these messages are especially for you. As in, you're especially me too. That is not absolute. Rather, it is, but I don't mean it that way because a troll's a troll. And yeah, they're me too, but they're also me punching myself in the face. And I'm not really suggesting that. Of the whatever 1% or 1 point something of the number under 100 is always represented in part by the other. It's helpful and beautiful. And if you're like me, then answering the question of like, what do you do, has always been a confusing one. Maybe in like more mundane times been like I don't know, like what I do is unconventional. It's hard to kind of, there's no real like job or title for it. Or just more like your truth, and you've always conveyed it this way. I do a lot of things. And that's a weird question to answer in the way that you're asking. Like, I work at Starbucks, which I did in my early 20s, got me to Europe. That is like one flimsy, or can be, dimension of my being. I just want to like address that baby elephant in the room, because there was no real good answer, and there is now. And all that is an increasing compatibility with one's own self reality. So, in so much that the answer of, like, what do you do for a living, can be Like I spend most of my time helping people. I'm like, huh? Well, I used to teach yoga, so I still kind of do that to that capacity, but um, offering therapy, talking, listening. Also, my expertise is health and wellness, so you know, it's like helping people. And I put myself out there, and people arise. Oh, and then just like that. That's how I answer that question now, because previous to that, there might have been some I'm not my job, or I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm not really teaching yoga anymore. And, like resistance to like the apartment, but also resistance to the resistance. It's like, I just want to be able to tell you that I fly magic carpets, but I can't. So I have to explain it in weird ways. Fuck that. I fly magic carpets. Huh? End of conversation. Uh, when really, there's lots of ways to tell the truth. And that is the most, uh, that is one way of being very most, uh, in which you can guide in which one person can guide themselves along spirituality, inner peace, inner power, outer, I don't know, anything, whatever. If you just tell the truth all the time. In a random conversation with someone that used to be an acquaintance stranger, but now is a friend, even though like the superficial niceties are hardly accomplished. Like, to tell you the truth, I asked his name once, met him like in my neighborhood walking dog, just like a young man. Uh, don't remember his name, remember his dog's name. And that has no bearing on how much I know him, especially after our conversation yesterday. And a lot came up. One of the things, everybody lies. And I used to believe that because I was that person who only told the truth. And the only lies I ever said were like in my teenage years, like the perpetual, did you go to school? Yeah. Did you do your homework? Yeah. No. Uh, but then later, lies of convenience. Were you on time for work? Yeah. It's like a little late. Fuck, it's on time for me. Uh, but eventually, you learn if you keep going and don't stop, you stop lying. Those small lies uh, become unnecessary because you learn to tell the truth skillfully. And what's critical to sovereignty and loving, and like being one with divinity that's kind of trying to let itself forget that it doesn't know everything ish so that it can have fun. but you also can't forget everything. You don't, not everyone needs to know everything. And just because someone asks doesn't mean that you have to tell them. And just because you don't have to tell them doesn't mean you have to tell them something else that isn't true. You can tell them less truth until, if you have to, you tell them that no, I don't want to say. I don't know. It bears repeating because I decided to repeat. And I just check in because I'm like, is it insecurity? Is it, and because it has been in the past, but no, it's also responsible in my own bearing. My videos, practically all of them, at least thus far, are deliberately casual and like convoluted in a conversational sense. Because part of what must be learned to achieve like inner truth and inner self is one, anything can be used for everything. And the fastest way to an object is not a straight line. And the short, snippy answer to whatever my title is there is none. There is no short, snippy answer. And if I'm speaking to anything, however tangentialized it may seem, if sought after, the essence, especially for whatever I'm saying moving forward, is not only like on display, but the prize, cleverly disguised as rambling. Anything that comes your way easily is asking you to make it harder. Which isn't to say everything needs to be hard in a like a suffering kind of way, because easy and hard can mean a lot of things. I just mean make it fun. Be satisfied with the shovel and not the chest. And then every time you dig, it's your prize. Every time you put your shovel down, it's a prize. Every time you pick it up, it's a prize. Surprise! So lesson one, how to talk to maybe people in your life, just people that are not exposed at all to what's becoming the burgeoning collective reality, but previous to this is like so fucking not reality and so intentionally confused as like fantasy that it can be very hard to be like, I have no idea how to start with talking to you about multiple realities and dragons. So the first lesson is don't tell anybody. Who do you need to tell? And then don't tell them. That is not freedom making for anyone. But if they ask a question, you can explore the question. And through exploration of the question, you can connect as like fellow adventurers. Because essentially, questions of this nature, the best questions, are like, what are we doing together? Or what can we be doing together right now? What are we already doing together? So you walk in, you're at like a family gathering, you're just sitting with your family, you're in some familiar communal setting where lots of people think they know you, and you really feel that they actually don't. Uh, if no one asks you, uh, then no one knows, and they can't be told. Period. Because I'm going to move forward with ways that you can, and more specifics about the way that you can explain things to people. But it would be irresponsible of me uh, to say these things without the caveat of don't be a fucking evangelist, especially with truer information. Because if you take truer information and you bring it down to a less conscious level, then in the language of like in the language of consciousness communication, i.e., like the story, it's essentially it's like telling a lie. You're taking a truth, and the need to evangelize it christens it with a glass ceiling. It evangelizing essentially does that to anything. It's like, listen, I know something, and it's true for you. You just don't know it. So let me like insert certitude into your being because it'll help you, I swear. And then other people will listen and hear these true things without understanding the depth of their truth, and they will continue to do with which they think all true things present themselves with, which is opportunity. And the next thing you know, it's been like co-opted or hijacked by the mainstream. Because the easiest way to lie is to tell the truth about a lie. So nobody asks, nobody tells. But most people don't know how to ask what they really want to say. Fairly, that's like wisdom. It takes practice and the wherewithal to look for skill, which is everyone's opportunity. And it's been really beaten out of us. So it's not like this young man came to me and started like offering philosophical crazies. I'm redeeming crazy. But that's nonetheless where we went, and almost really immediately. And I maintain that this is the natural progression of all conversation that isn't about something that isn't, otherwise known as gossip. You're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and that's going to be truth, and that's going to be philosophical. Even how to, you're talking logistically about how to build something, how to take something apart, has a philosophical nature. And this is where you meet people where they're at. And you share your truth as it is reasonable. For instance, I'm very good with dogs. I've only ever had one, my buddy. But I love knowing how things work and how to communicate effectively with everything. And when you treat a dog like a dog loves you. And a dog is very happy. So anyways, I was kind of training the dog a little bit just by being myself around it, basically. It was behaving like a distressed dog, like most dogs. And they're not that distressed, but it was like, trying to like alpha everything. And so I started training it a little bit. And my friend expressed he's like, it's been acting really weird recently. And so that connects me to like what that makes me think. Like, why would the dog be acting really weird recently? It's like lots of good reasons. And so then I asked him why he thought so. And then that opened up the conversation for me to be like, how like being close to like a cell tower or you put your head behind like a fucking TV, it's like, wow, it's, like all that stuff kind of like fucks with your head. Or like some people more than others or whatever. It's like, yeah. And then I kind of explained to him a little bit like how the basically it's like just like the radio frequencies or whatever, messing with like our own like pattern of frequencies and whatever in it, and so it affects us. And then I just like, I'm like, the sun is like that, and our solar system, galaxy even, is moving through a part of space where there's just a lot more of that kind of information. And so that's probably, what's messing with the dog. Not connotating good or bad, right? Like not leaping at that opportunity to be like, except it's not like the cell towers. This is creating confusion, like that. It's it's making sense. It's bringing back to normal. No. Just because you don't evangelize in the first sentence doesn't mean starting at like sentence 3 isn't still evangelizing. Evangelizing is not listening. And the wonderful thing about consciousness and reality and truth is that there was no real above and beyond effort necessary. It was just the effort of being yourself, myself, the bravery of that, which is usually just already overcome if you're already, in my experience anyways, like if you're already like connecting, or like you decided to be in the same vicinity as someone else and open your mouth, and nobody's paying you to do it, like in a big way, you've already been like, I'm going to be myself right now. It's like, what? Out of nowhere, but it's along the lines of conversations like I always wondered about, and then one thing leads to another. We're talking about like human space travel, religion, history, and without my telling him anything, absolutely, I got to share so much truth with him by just staying on his path of inquiry. And when you place yourself on the same path as another, it's not necessarily that like all paths do lead to the same place. Many ways of getting there. Like it's not a commitment to just you're on that path, like, or rather maybe the wiser you get, the broader your path can be to yourself. And as other people travel theirs, their path might be different channels of broad and narrow. And they can't see that like you can see, but their path has found their way onto your boardwalk. So don't be bored while you walk. I came to spirituality through physicality. An inner knowing, I can say it was like an inner asking that was always present. And I always asked, what is? And increasingly that means everything. So I came through spirituality, through physicality. That makes sense because spirituality is physical. But if there was like a linear expression of bidirectionality of energy and physicality, then from like dense and subtle would be two ends. Typical spirituality is typically associated with the subtlest, and like 3D would be the most dense. I came to spirituality very much from 3D. Not like I was ever really absorbed in it. I can, I can practically say I've never jived. But it's not because I didn't try. And because I tried, damn well everything, I found spirituality everywhere. And maybe not all at once, but when you try everything and you find a little spirituality everywhere you go, it adds up to all spirituality. So the way that I can connect with others and like relatability is really helpful. Just like related to something that's a part of their lives. For instance, this guy's dog. So like what does spirituality mean to you? How do you interact with it in your life? And then what aspect of that is closest to the edge of their non-understanding, right? Like they're like, okay, this is where I am. This is where our understandings overlap. But and maybe and this first like junction of non-understanding and understanding that encompasses, it's like the Vesica Pisces, the Vesica Pisces of what you want to express, what they want to know, and there's like, I want to say, a conflict of awareness. And then go there. It's not helpful to tell somebody the truth about something that they know nothing about. It is not helpful to tell somebody the truth about something that they know nothing about, but they think they know everything about. And it's not helpful to tell anybody the truth about something they don't care about. But if they're asking, they care about you. And if they care about you, the part of them that cares about you cares about themselves too, and doesn't maybe so know it, but recognizes that same, we're one with each other. Especially now in this time of I don't know, everything. It's like, what do you do after you, like, what do you do after bath time? Go to bed, start your day, eat lunch, like, especially after this time of purifying, rectifying, returning. People want to come back to each other. So feed that, infuse that with your direction. What was I saying? Like, what was my title? Like, the muggles. I wasn't saying on the screen, I didn't. No, I have no idea. I guess there's a way. No, I have no idea. Oh, there is a way, actually. Because I'm clever. No, yeah, okay. I think that's mostly it. If you've been with me this long, I congratulate you for persisting. And here's just a few little like paths of inquiry that you might find interesting, and then look up and make your own, so that you can connect more with others in the ways that you want to, and the ways that they want to with you. I find you can communicate almost anybody to almost anyone about the reasonableness of the world changes when you talk about things that are highly relatable, like the weather, right? Like, so where I am, the weather is, I don't know, not so crazy, but it seems crazy to the people that aren't really paying attention. And then weather's buck wild elsewhere in the world, legit, especially to those that are paying attention. So it's like, you want to talk about Ascension, you want to talk about reality and like that, you can talk about how the weather is really fucking changing, and then point out the stark differences. It's no fucking El Nino. And if you don't know them, find them out so that you can. Try to gravitate away from terror or warfare or battle. Speak only of them in terms in which we've already won. So you're not speaking of warfare or battle, you're speaking of victory. Your body, your DNA, is affected by radiation. That is a co-opted word to mean light traveling radially. Radius, radially. So coherent radiation is not the same as incoherent radiation. Coherent radiation would be everything that you practically see is coherent in some manner in experience. But speaking a little bit more mundanely, coherent radiation would be the light that you see, and incoherent radiation would be the radiation that kills you, from like plutonium or something like that. And in the storehouse of our DNA, which mutates by frequency, by light information, by radiation. You can connect the dots of cosmic rays with DNA activation, deactivation. Because if you travel upwards away from DNA, it's like, DNA, where do you find those? Like, in self. I'm fucking, but I'm making myself laugh for another reason. It's like genes. Everything's your genes. Sure, man. Fuck. And like, If you think so, it's not true. It's not ultimate truth, but we can use it. Your genes switch on and off based on their environment, based on their like cell environment, but your cell environment is based on your environment. So, and then stem cells, you've got stem cells fucking everywhere. What's a stem cell? It's a cell that can turn into anything. Any cell, like anything in your body, a stem cell can kind of like, it's like a genesis cell.
Bone marrow. Placenta. Umbilical cord.
Just because you name a few places where there are stem cells doesn't mean that that list is all of the stem cells. There are stem cells in your eyes. There are stem cells practically at every junction of your body. There's a storehouse of stem cells to be recruited. So you can qualify basically the body changing in any fucking way that way. To like when you see like radio waves, sine waves, and all like that, super relatable. When you put one of those things on your brain, on your head, like electrodes, and it gives you like an EEG, an electroencephalogram, those waves, like, oh, they're similar. There's interactions. So I can see how the one medium, like I don't know, medium can interact with the other medium in the greater medium. But you can you can have electrodes this far away from your head and it will read. So sometimes my head is that close to other people. And you and I might be very different or very the same, but like brain's a brain. So maybe some of your signaling patterns match up with some of my signaling patterns. Maybe telepathy is more mundane than it isn't. History is a lie. New Earth, Crow House, those are just two channels. Mud flood anything. I'm not saying that anybody's right. These are avenues of inquiry. And when you lie about the history, you can make just about anybody believe that there's something that they're not. I think that's it. Well, for now. I love you. Thank you for taking the time to connect with greater consciousness by connecting with me through yours. I love you. I'm just getting started. Again. Love.